Bill Gates said, "I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it." What's a real life example of this? I was working as a stock boy in a supermarket, and when we had to fill the milk cooler, people would bust open a 12-pack of milk cartons and put them in one by one. On my first day, I just placed the 12-pack in the cooler and cut the plastic off on one side with my box cutter and yanked it from under it, and the look of the store manager and the other employee who was training me was pure bewilderment. From that day, everyone did it my way. Haha, I did this during the start of the pandemic with paper towels on an empty shelf. Thanks COVID panic buyers. Instead of opening the box of single roll paper towels and placing them on the shelf, I just cut off the bottom of the box and slid the rolls right out. Been there. It's so stupidly simple. Same for the Kleenex boxes. Cut the bottom and back of the box off, and guess what? They're perfectly stacked in a neat little cube. Almost like the inside of the box is a square, with them stacked inside already, and we don't care about the box. Start of lockdown, my 9-year-old son was having worksheets emailed to complete at home. One day, left him at the laptop doing his maths, while I made some dinner with my 3-year-old daughter. Walked into the living room with his dinner, to find him asking the Alexa all of his maths questions. I wouldn't call that lazy so much as an intelligent use of the technology at hand. Learning and utilizing technology is probably a much better lesson learned than whatever the particular maths problems he was working on. I take your point, but he was actually doing it in the least efficient way possible. He memorized the equation he needed to ask, say 327 times 8, walked over to Alexa, asked her the equation, walked back to the laptop, walked back to Alexa to ask her again, because he'd forgotten the last 2 digits, walk back to the laptop, enter the answer, walk back to Alexa to check it again. He had to keep walking backwards and forwards, because he knew it was cheating, so he'd turned the volume down, so I wouldn't hear from the next room. So while he thought he was being clever, he was actually taking more time to figure the answer out using the Alexa than it would have taken to do it himself. Plus, of course, there's the fact he was working on a laptop that has a calculator and a Cortana assistant that does the exact same as Alexa, and he knows how to use both the calculator and Cortana, but still chose to cheat in the least efficient way possible. Worked as a laborer at a nursery one summer. Daily tasks included manually watering 15,000 plants each day. Put together a back of the napkin plan to build an irrigation system and spent the next few weeks building it with some money from the boss. That system is still running 15 years later and does all the work now. I did automate myself out of the job and had to find another eventually. Couple years later, got my engineering degree. I'm convinced engineers are inherently lazy people that will spend a disproportionate effort to make things easier. That is precisely what engineering is. Okay, so serious response. Parent comment is me to a T. I won't lift and move my boom shelf across the room, which is in no way out of the realms of possibility for me, but I will happily spend 40 minutes attempting to attack wheels to it, so I can just roll it. I have recently been considering applying to a coding course at uni. Do you think I would enjoy engineering as a career path? I heavily enjoy building and making new things just work, but I have never really considered doing it for a living. If you have a chance to pursue what you enjoy doing for a living, definitely go for it. Not only will you get happiness from it, but you will also make your future employers happy by being good at it, because it comes naturally to you as your passion. Plus, it's a lucrative career choice, so it's just all win/win. We had to hold a thermometer in water in chemistry class. It probably was only 20-minute experiment, but your arms get tired after a couple minutes and you can't let the thermometer touch the bottom of the pan, or it won't get an accurate reading. So instead of sucking it up and just holding the thermometer, my lab partner built a contraption out of lab books and paper clips to somehow hold the thermometer in the water without it touching bottom. It was the stupidest looking thing you would ever see in a lab class, and our professor even walked over and said, if it looks stupid, sounds stupid, but it works, then it isn't stupid. My lab partner and I joke that he wasn't talking about the contraption, but the intellect of my lab partner. That's ridiculous. I was always expected to use a retort stand for this. I went to a broke high school. We only had like 10 textbooks to share with 40 people in class and most were dated in the 1980s. No way was the county going to splurge out and buy some fancy equipment when they could just have the students build some arm muscles. Its use is in the national exam syllabus here, so even the poorest schools world needed to get them. I was a paid intern at a large company during one summer back home from college. My work 95% consisted of using SAP, import to Excel, clean data and generate reports, occasionally create some tool someone needed. In the first 2 weeks, after getting a hang of my responsibilities, writing all the Excel formulas needed, and basically automating 99% of my work, I was chilling. I went from actually working from 9 to 5 to maybe 1 hour tops a day. Finding, importing, cleaning, and reporting usually took hours, but with all the formulas it took 2 minutes of clicking. I then helped the other cool intern get it set up, so we could both just chill. We could take 2-hour lunches, paid for by the company, and nobody said anything cause we were just getting so much more done than the other interns. OFCI helped for special tasks when asked, but those were simple 20-minute tasks building something in Excel. Overall, was the easiest/stressless internship of my life. This explains so much about where I went wrong in life lol. I automated most of the work of compliance filings using Excel at my current job and turned what used to be a full-time job into 1/3 of a job and then was like, I'm bored and took on what amounted to 2 additional jobs in the organization lol. TBF I also always hated internships because I was like give me work. I get anxious, guilty, and bored if I'm not working at work, but I'm obsessed with efficiency and optimizing so the cards are stacked against me. The trick is to automate your job, but not tell anyone. Once word gets out that you solved your position, they will either replace you with the automation or just pile on more work while your coworkers continue to manually be slow. Unless you get a raise for the extra work, it's not worth it. One of my favorite examples is Andy Kim. And I'd like to preface this by saying that I don't think Kim is lazy so much as a genius. Andrew Kim was a singer/songwriter who became famous under the stage name Andy Kim. He achieved success writing songs for bands like the Arkies, possibly most notably Sugar. After his success he coasted for a while until his record label dropped him for lack of output. At that point he created his own label and cranked out hits like Rock Me Gently. When they saw this, the big record labels then bought his label under the assumption that they would then profit off of the songs he wrote and performed. He then very shortly stopped writing songs and largely lived off the sale of his label. Work smarter not harder. It took me like 3 months, but I automated a data pipeline to extract data, clean it up, and spit it out in an Excel or PDF format to one of our clients. I walked over to shoot with the lady who handles my client and gives me tasks, and she told me we make 40k off them every month for that automated job. I need to go start my own business. As a developer at least, it's quite common that everything you create at work belongs to the company. So make sure your script doesn't belong to them before you try and start a business with it. Take this guy's word. My wife's best friend's husband is an engineer. He worked for a company making industrial machines. He decided to go start a company of his own. Asked a lawyer and the lawyer said it should be no problem. 6 months down the road he got served a court order to shut down because he was using IP from his previous job. Ended up going to court and got wiped out. Hundreds of thousands of dollars penalty, future salary garnishment, the whole works. Even if the first lawyer says it's okay, get a second opinion and get it all written down. Spend 15k on lawyers up front or lose your. See, this is something people don't understand. If you think you're gonna do something that makes a lot of money, stop. Just stop. Work on it at home, quit if your contract requires it. If you had an idea on the job, discovered something on the job, etc., your company is not entitled to it. If you spend company time building it, they are. I was once set to test a certain piece of equipment on a ship. The test involved attaching the unit to a reader, then run loads of command line commands. Then, one would have to make a copy of all the text, copy it into Word, and save it as a real crappy looking report. There was hundreds of units, and they needed to be tested several times a year. We did about 20 to 30 a day. It would take several weeks to finish. I didn't know coding at the time, but always wanted to learn it. Within 2 months, I had made a program, even with the GUI, to spot faults with ease, instead of having to actually read the reports. The program could read 3 units at a time, and would automatically create a smooth PDF report, and save it on our server, named with serial number and date. The job was now to attach 3 units, then wait for about 3 minutes, detach and attach new ones. Basically 30 seconds work, 3 minutes break. I could now test all units in a day, though I would typically spread it out over a couple more days. When I left the company, I left the program on the test computer. I got an email from an ex-colleague a few months later, saying they were using the program on several ships now. There wasn't any manual for the program, of course, but it was so straightforward that it wasn't needed. Can you suggest a place to learn this? I have several bits of repetitive work that involve Microsoft Office software and a browser-based CRM. I'd like to automate some of it. I'd start with learning the basics. In used after horse programming, Google it to learn the basics of Python within a few days. Then, look up Kinter if GUI is needed. Can't remember the name, but there's a nice little package that will let you interact with mouse and keyboard too. An older company had a person dedicated to data entry, which boiled down to copying and pasting portions of data from text files into spreadsheet and formatting into a report. The person originally doing this job spent a full 40+ hours/week doing it, but was not very computer literate. When they retired, the company hired someone with actual skills. The new hire convinced management to let her work remotely after getting up to speed on the job. The first week at home was spent automating the entire job. The remainder of their multi-year tenure with the company was spent doing whatever they wanted, save the 10 to 15 minutes weekly to run their program and to answer the odd email here and there. All while getting paid full salary and benefits. They actually had to add in a few errors now and then to make it seem realistic. An older company had a person dedicated to data entry, which boiled down to copying and pasting portions of data from text files into spreadsheet and formatting into a report. I've worked a few places that have people doing this. Usually when they retire, the job is given to some younger person that figures out how to do it in 10 minutes on top of the rest of their normal job. In this case, since the retiring person worked full-time doing this and often struggled to meet deadlines, they hired a replacement. My GF works for an insurance company and basically spent months working on spreadsheets to compile quarterly vendor claims for the last 10 years, each quarter with thousands of rows. I just finished my manuscript in analytics. I spent a few hours with her asking exactly what she needed to do. Wrote 3 lines of code in Skite and basically saved her months of work. Now when she has to work in these projects, she runs a program and that's that. Worked in a local adult education center. One of my main tasks was to make calculation about how many people enlisted for a course, how many of them got discounts, unemployed for instance, how many men/women/age etc. That was needed to calculate upcoming courses fees etc. That was my only work there, and I hated it. This was in early 90s, so PCs were a thing in our offices, but I had no idea how to write a program or use a database to use this informations. Lucky as I'm, our center had an interesting policy. When you want to educate yourself, you can attend that class for free. And when it's during the work time, then this is work time, as long as my supervisor is okay with that. She was. So I spent 3 months studying database structures, scripting, coding etc. I told my tutor what I wanna do, and he helped me to write a script that grabs all necessary informations from the course's database, copy that into another database, and then I went crazy and wrote code that was insane. I implemented what if scenarios thanks to filters. At the end I was able to do my work that needed 6 hours a day within 15 minutes. I mean, before that it took for instance an hour to have all the necessary informations, to have a how many unemployed single parent women does it need to make the costs of that course even. I had everything back then. Now you want statistics. How many single parent disabled foreign women at the age of 80 to 90 are needed for the next 2 years to keep the ornithology course running? Sure, no problem. Clickety-click, done. After that, I started the PC in the morning, grabbed all the data, ran my script, was done within 15 minutes, and then read the book I brought from home. At the end of the day I gave my supervisor several dozens of papers, statistics, predictions etc and said that was a lot of work, and went home. My supervisor was super happy with me because I did so much more now and was super effective. I had a manager in my 20s who detested the fact I turned a 2-hour process into a 15-minute process. It exposed how much lazier he was compared to me, because when the higher ups learned from other people at my level that I created the program, they took me aside and told me he took credit for it. They asked me how I felt about that. I told them what decisions they make regarding the manager's character is their decision. Just put yourselves in my shoes and consider it from that angle. They did nothing, and I took the concept to a competitor who invested the money into making the program more robust and proprietary. My name was line 1 on the patent and trademark documents and I did well enough to semi-retire at 45. I credit Lee Iacocca for the inspiration. He went through a similar problem with higher ups at Ford and his answer was to take his brain to Chrysler who would value it. Damn. What did it do? It aggregated loan application information for various lending products, mortgage, auto, etc., and collected data to establish the best DNA for a good loan versus a bad loan. It read risk and quality control. When the bank was bought out by a bigger bank whose name rhymes with Pace, this was among their most valuable assets. I did really okay with that transaction. I knew a guy who had a low-level data/reporting job. He had several daily/weekly work responsibilities, including a bunch of reports that needed quite a bit of tweaking from raw data to finished product. But like I said, low level. We didn't find out until way later, but he had set up macros for each of his major responsibilities where he could. Once set up, he'd just run the macros to do his work, but then he'd, smartly, hold off on delivering the reports until just a little before the deadlines. He'd hit every assignment and was seen as reliable. He also would complain about the workload, so people would leave him with that work. I doubt he did a full hour of work a day after he set up what he did. Eventually he left the job for one with better pay. But damn did he work lazy. Also, he was smart not to reveal until the end, because had he told them about it, he would have gotten a pat on the back and would have been given a whole other workload on top of maintaining those macros/etc. Dude milked the job, not the other way around. I know a guy who did this, but he revealed it. The company shared the macros with all the employees. It made everyone's life easier, but they also got an increased workload. The company made a lot more money. And this guy made none of it. He didn't even get promoted. That's why I haven't said a word. The secret is shameless self-promotion. Use secret scripts and automation, but instead of telling everyone else how awesome your scripts are and how well automated everything is, use the output, work, from those and tell everyone how good you are at these tasks and reports, and how well you've got it handled. One of my favorite stories from my youth was the tale of the man who was too lazy to fail. I got fed up with handwriting itemized suborders at work, so I set up a spreadsheet that you can just fill out. Then I got tired of having more than one program open and not being able to search within and among those order sheets, at least not automatically or easily, so I'm having our file maker guy integrate it into our greater ordering and invoicing system. I was frustrated at the pointlessness of sorting a giant pile of paper invoices from an unpaid stack to a paid stack every month, so I just used the accounting software to keep track. I became so irritated with having to fill out a multi-page, printed spreadsheet for every single order, sometimes just one item, 2 pages in, and frequently, there would be those pesky itemized suborders that I condensed the items into most used, put them all on one easy to read sheet, and encouraged my coworker to simply write out the more uncommon items at the bottom. Basically, I hate busy work, and paper invariably leads to busy work. I have tried to reduce the use of paper in our office, but have not been entirely successful. We have to have written order forms available, because sometimes the orders are coming in too fast to be able to type it all quickly and correctly, and have to keep some paper records for things like organic, FDA, and Oster audits. But all in all, I'd say my absolute hatred of filing has reduced busy work here by at least half. Me too. I made templates of our most popular items, which generally made invoicing easier. Then I opened up new accounts with manufacturers because we were buying from resellers. Our company has grown so much from me just asking, wait, why don't we just? Does Alexander and the Gordian knot count? A complex knot that, according to prophecy, was to be undone only by the person who was to rule Asia, and that was cut, rather than untied, by Alexander the Great. Wasn't that the same dude who liked a guy living in a barrel? Yeah. The barrel dude was called Diogenes, who was a philosopher who was famous for founding the school of Cynic philosophy. He gave up all of his possessions apart from a barrel and a small bowl which he drank from. He was famous for jacking off in public, and, when Alexander the Great visited him and asked him what he could do for him, Diogenes' response was that he should move because he was blocking the sun. You left out the funniest part about him jacking it in public. When people told him to stop or ask him why he did that, he responded by saying, "If only I could satisfy my hunger by rubbing my stomach." Diogenes was a sassy. My boss put my name in for leading a project group shortly after I joined the company. I had no experience whatsoever about project managing, yet he still demanded that I lead the group of 12 people. All way smarter guys, tech background, and these guys are like magicians for me, and with way more time at the company. I'm a business guy who's too dumb for balance sheets, that's why I'm in ours, and because I quite like the field the most. So we started the first meeting. I asked for everyone's plan, experience, and ideas, gathered the different pros and cons, cross-checked with the budget we had, put on a time frame with milestones to reach, around 6 months, put in valuable people to consult at different steps. Why did I do that? Because I like organizing stuff and keep everyone on the same page and delegate to-dos. Got promoted because of the success of the project. I asked my boss why he put me in for it, since I never done anything like that. He said because I complained in the first week that most of the work has way too wonky structure, no clear guideline, and this could be improved heavily if we just take some time into it. And because I hated talking to others if I had questions and I wouldn't get a clear answer, like, ask 10 people the same question and you get 15 different answers. In the long run, this would make us way more efficient and keeps everyone on the same page. All because I hated disorganized work. This is me, but I have yet to find a job that really takes my frustration with the inefficiencies into consideration. One job did, but never gave me the time to fix it, just said they wanted it done, and kept me doing busy work. So well done. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.